Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney at the firm. Today's review, we're going to be looking at this AI service use policy. So I'm going to go to the homepage. I want to see what the product is. So there's a computer program making it easy to write well by voice directly into text fields of any application or browser. Okay, that's interesting. And then also it's got all of these speak to write. Okay, so let me say something about privacy and then we'll go back to the AI use. At a minimum, this tool is ingesting or is an AI writing assistant for documents, emails, and more. Now, the first thing I see, an email address identifies an individual. If you go to my website and you want to contact me for privacy advisory, you'll be able to see my email there and you'll be able to identify who I am from that. You've got my name, you've got me on YouTube, and then you've got my email. Those three identifiers together identify that I'm Funmi Owolabi. So we know at a minimum that this AI writing assistant is going to be ingesting emails. Now, let's talk about the implications for the supplier. The supplier needs to have a privacy program that addresses its obligations for processing personal data where it provides this service. For example, let's say that the AI writing assistant is available for we've got a Spanish flag, don't we? So let's just say that this is available for people in Spain. And we've got the Spanish flag, the British flag, we've got an American flag, etc. Whatever the data protection law is in Spain, if that is our audience, we need to address what the privacy law states, what it states about processing personal data like emails, and then we need to write down all of our obligations. In order to process personal data from Spanish residents, we need to, this is the rule, this is the law, this is the next one. Write it out and then create those documents. What I wanted to look at for the AI service use is, I think this is valuable for customers to look at, customers of this organization, because you need to be able to know whether or not your use of a tool is in alignment with your own privacy practices. So as I had just outlined above, this organization has its own privacy program. In its own privacy program and the use of its AI writing tool, it's written what its purpose is, the scope, the objectives, terms and definitions, which you as a potential customer will need to know, and then its principles. Now, you as a customer should have your own privacy program because you want to procure a particular service from a supplier. And I've talked a lot about vendor due diligence on many of my videos. It's really important to look at what a vendor is doing, how they treat privacy and personal data, even in an AI context, and whether it aligns with your own privacy practices as a customer. So we're looking at things like these are their use principles. This is what they believe in. We believe in clear communication. So if you as a customer believe in that, you can continue. We will explain how AI is used in our services and its potential impact on clients and participants, which I had just mentioned. So they look at things like accountability, human oversight. Let's look at compliance. And these are the acceptable uses. So you need to think about this digital service is intended for speech to text and text improvements. At a minimum, we know that this AI writing tool is ingesting emails, and emails constitute personal data. We can also see here that users should input data by voice or text if they have permission to use that, either for themselves or for the company or organization they represent. So I would say that this tool is probably being offered to organizations. Organizations need to look at their own privacy program and determine whether this is a good, acceptable use for them. And you're only going to know if this is an acceptable use for you if you've already reviewed the data protection laws that are applicable to your organization, the personal data that you anticipate will be ingested by the supplier, and whether or not that is acceptable for you during your due diligence phase. I think every organization should have a checklist when they do their due diligence, and their due diligence is going to say, hey, within our organization, we use vendors that are exclusively located and processing personal data in the United States. That's just an example. So if you're doing a due diligence phase and your privacy program aligns with the geography where you provide your products and services, the United States, if you're going to be liaising with a vendor in China, you need to review whether the acceptable use that Chinese supplier has aligns with the practices that you deem as acceptable based on the personal data you as a company hold on to, because you have responsibilities as an organization. That isn't something that you have to push onto your suppliers because your supplier might be operating in a different geography. So those need to align. Now, what's the value in that? And you might be saying, why do I care? I think it's really important for businesses to care because it impacts the notice you present about your privacy practices to your own customers, to your own data subjects. That's why it matters to do this vendor due diligence. And that's why it's really important to take a look at non-traditional privacy documents like AI service use policy, because if you as an organization are going to be liaising with a different organization to procure services, you need to see what's acceptable to them. And you need to know whether or not their privacy standpoint, not all of this is applicable to privacy, but a lot of it is. And we can see here their AI use principle states, we prioritize the privacy and security of all data used in our AI services. We'll only collect and use personal data in strict compliance with applicable data privacy laws. This would be something you would need to know as an organization if you're going to be working with this company to see if their practice, which is this is what they're saying their practice is, does it align with what we do internally? We will implement robust security measures to protect the data from unauthorized access and breach. Again, when you do the due diligence, because this impacts your notice. Let's say, for example, an organization isn't articulate about only collecting the minimally required data. If they're not only collecting the minimally amount of data and you provide them access to one of your instances or repositories, they could just take the data from your organization and use it in a manner that's not strictly compliant with the applicable data privacy law. And then if your notice on your website says, we only use data minimally required, well, that's not technically true. And then your business puts itself in jeopardy of being non-compliant with the FTC Act Section 5. So I know that was a lot to talk about. And some of these concepts I think are very specific to geography. And also, I think it's good to understand what's at stake. What's at stake is really what's important. What's at stake is your organization. I also think it's valuable to take a look at this. This particular document, although it's not a traditional privacy document, you can see it should be read in addition to the privacy policy and the terms of condition. So the documents work hand in hand. So even if you had a privacy lawyer review the notice on the website that they've made available here, you need to read that in addition to the artificial intelligence service use policy, because there are going to be terms that are going to be consistent with both, and you need to make sure that they align. So I think we talked mainly about this from a customer perspective. I think it's valuable to review what organizations are offering and what businesses should have in terms of consideration when they are, one, building a privacy program, but secondly also when they are conducting their vendor management part of their privacy program, because that's what the review of this type of information would constitute. And I think one thing that's really good in 2026 is the fact that companies are making this available on the internet, which is why when I do these videos I always show the URL, because let's say for instance you're an organization and you're in the request for proposal stage and you're thinking about working with an organization, but you don't have all of the information you need to make a decision, you can just go onto the internet and see, first of all, when they last updated it, whether it applies to the product that you're trying to obtain from them, and then if it's in line with your own privacy program. You can see that up front, even without going into a contract with a supplier now. So I really hope you enjoyed this review. If you have comments or questions, leave them below and I'll see you in another one.